You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another weekly edition of Global Trade This Week. We're happy to have you with us. I am Doug Draper. I am only one of the hosts of the show. The other one is my good friend who is usually all over the globe, but not so much this week. So, Pete, where are you, man?
Home. I'm in Virginia. I was all excited, Doug, because I didn't think I was going to travel at all this week. And I got a message from one of our salespeople, hey, you going to be in Jersey tomorrow for this thing? I'm like, I thought it was remote. I'm like, no. So now I got to hustle up there and be there for a meeting. But I got the rest of the week home. So I'll be happy about that. And we'll get into it on the show today, but it's been a crazy 4 days. So, yeah, it's certainly not a restful time. It's a pretty crazy time, bud.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, how you personalize your home office there. You may want to mix in an owl gray color in the background, kind of liven it up a little bit.
I haven't put up paintings or anything yet. That'll probably happen pretty soon. This is the last room that's gotten any of my attention these past few months. It's like I just want to focus on what's on my laptop. But yeah, something needs to be done. You're right. I'll have it looking better before the next time you see it, I promise.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a box that's literally probably 4 feet by 4 feet, and I have this wonderful background which keeps the noise level down. So you and I, we just do what needs to be done wherever that happens to be. So
that's just who we are, Doug. We just get it done.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, you have a lot of things to talk about, and we'll tag team this first topic. So I'll just let you roll with it.
Yeah. So, get back from 4 different cities in 4 different days on Thursday night. Feeling real good about Friday. Kind of a weak schedule. You know what I mean? Like I can catch up on emails and stuff. And then at about 5:04 p.m. out of Washington, they drop news in what we call an advanced Federal Register. So the Federal Register comes out periodically, but an advanced version of the Federal Register is the unedited version, and we're always looking for that. And then in this advanced version, they said, hey, those steel and aluminum tariffs where we have a derivative where you don't have to pay the total value, but just the value of the steel or aluminum? Here's 407 more products that it actually applies to. Oh, and by the way, it goes into effect on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So, the typical Friday news dump, no one's really paying attention. I get the notice on my phone because I'm that nerd that a new Federal Register notice has come out, an advanced one. I open it up, I read it, and Doug, I said out loud, you've got to be shitting me. That's what I said out loud, right? So you have some clients who read it too, who got the message, and their stuff was suddenly subject to an additional 50% on the steel or aluminum content. A lot of people didn't know what happened. So, we're calling everybody we can saying, hey, listen, you have product that's being entered right now. Were you aware of this? Let's get it done before Monday. We're missing this, we're missing that. Do we have your authorization to work over the weekend? It was wild. And I think the part that really I wanted to stress today, Doug, is it's becoming pretty clear that disrupting trade is not something anyone is really too concerned with at 1300 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. And it's equally not something they're concerned with at the Reagan building. This is such a slap in the face to people who trade. It would have been one thing if we had some kind of advance notice that was coming down the road. People could have made decisions about it. They could have found some way through the chaos to properly stage product so that this wasn't such an issue. But you have tens of thousands of importers today who woke up to the fact that when their stuff gets here today or tomorrow, the value of the steel content, which for most of these products, by the way, is pretty significant, is going to have a 50% tariff on it. This is not faster, freer, safer, more open trade. This is an insult to the import community. It's an insult to the trade. And this type of governance is not conducive to commerce. And they should be deeply ashamed of themselves.
It's a great way to put it. They always say deliver bad news on a Friday afternoon, right? That's when you get the layoff notices.
Yeah.
When when we did kind of the show notes just before, I was like unaware of the impact of this and didn't know about it, to be honest with you. And I started doing a little research, and the 407, right? The number of things that are impacted was a number. The other thing is the heavy load that it puts on when I want to say your people, right? The folks that are doing the entries are trying to navigate advice to their customers. What do you do in the moment? Because there is no grace period, right? Clients that say, okay, we're going to handle our supply chain in this way because we know things are going to change in the future. All of a sudden, there is no forewarning. There is no shot over the bow. There's nothing. It just went from Friday afternoon to 12:01 on a Monday. So the two things that strike me, number one, is just I feel for the community that is supposed to be advising. I mean, how can you advise what you don't know and what could change on a day-to-day basis? So the impact to compliance teams and customs brokers and trying to relay and be a good advocate for their company or as a consultant is just mind blowing. And so that heavy workload is just going to be monumental. And then the no forewarning. I mean, it's only a blip in the movement of the supply chain, but God, people have been trying to do the best they can to navigate this thing, and it's just out of nowhere, right? I mean, it's going to be stuff you and I buy. I mean, I was looking up like refrigerator, dishwasher, stuff. It's not something that doesn't touch us indirectly. I mean, if you wanted to buy a dishwasher or refrigerator, you better buy it now, right? Before that supply chain hits. So I think this is pretty impactful. I don't know if it's going to get the newsworthiness that it deserves, right? It could just be another blip, and it's kind of talked about on the back page. But yeah, it was a shocker when I saw your show notes this morning.
For the import community, we're beginning to get used to the idea that at any given moment, the rug will get pulled out from underneath us, or what's feeling like we finally have our arms around something, and then a new radical gets thrown into the formula, and we have to manage it. This is not that kind of situation. We were starting to move things again. We were feeling very confident, and then whammo. And it's not just one country. These affect so many countries. So you've been trying to avoid the tariff by moving something to a more economically proficient origin that's more politically aligned to the U.S., and then wham, 50% more on top of it. And our clients, they're switched on. They're following everything. They're reading everything. They're trying to stay ahead of it. But to wake up and find out that suddenly all of your goods have been hit with this kind of a tariff, it took the wind out of everyone's sails, man. It's been a really rough day today. I've been on the phone and doing emails since 6 a.m. and it's all the same question over and over again. Is this for real? Is this serious? It's one of those things where you can't believe it's actually happening while it's going on. So if this is how things are going to go moving forward, because we're going to have 232s on copper and derivatives, we already have them, but there's going to be an expansion on that list. Who knows when that's going to happen? At what point are we going to have some sort of a normal cadence? Or is this what's going to happen every time? We're going to have a huge list of crap thrown in our laps at the last minute over a weekend. Any journalist will tell you Friday is the day that you try to hide it. If it's a long weekend, even better. No one's watching the TV, right? But given how social media works and the new type of media that we all get our news from, we do find out about it. We do hear about it. And the outrage can be voiced, even though quietly, amongst a small group of people that watch it so closely. Doug, I'd be shocked if there's more than 100,000 customs and trade compliance professionals in the whole country. Like, legitimately, this is what they do all day long. And we're a very tight group. So once the smoke signals went up, once the Coconut Telegraph started on Friday, everybody found out about this. And this is just no way to treat the trade. Absolutely no way at all.
Yeah. I love that. It's no way to treat the trade. Agreed 100%. Yeah. End of month, end of quarter could have been about the only other worst time to drop this news. But yeah, valid.
Yeah, I'm done being angry about it, Doug. Like right now, I spent all weekend irritated. At this point, it's that acceptance phase. You just accept the silliness around you. And, I say this all the time. Every day I expect something absolutely horrible to happen. So I'm not surprised when it does. Boy, did it happen on Friday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me jump into my topic, then we'll do our halftime because I know we kind of tag team that one a little bit. But mine is it almost kind of goes to the contrary of what we just spoke about, which to me is a little bit mind-boggling. And I'm going to start with this one, Pete. When COVID hit, right? It was literally my birthday is March 15th, and I remember going out to dinner with my family on Sunday, and I think it was March 15th or 16th. And we came to the realization that that was going to be the last meal we were going to eat out for quite a long time. It was just an eerie feeling. And then that week, my kids were just about ready to go to college. So I called my financial advisor and I said, turn everything in the 529 to cash. Get out of every possible thing you can do and do it now, right? Not knowing what the stock market was going to do. I thought all of the work that we've done for the last, 18 years of our lives was just going to be down the drain. So I called and was like, turn it to cash, turn it to cash. In hindsight, probably shouldn't have done that because the markets weren't as impacted on a long-term basis as you would have thought was such a catastrophic situation as COVID was. I say that because kind of get the feeling with tariffs and reshaping peak season and the amount of volume that's still coming into the US, right? I just saw a post that said the Port of LA had a record, the most containers of throughput in that port ever in the month of July. It was like 1.5, 1.05. So just call it a million TEUs, largest ever, even larger than COVID. So I don't know. I mean, I just read about this, so I'm trying to figure out the link, and I'd ask our audience to give any feedback on what their take is, right? But it's not like peak season happened any earlier. It's like when we spoke about it, it kind of didn't even happen, right? And then you got all these people chasing these tariffs and trying to get their product in before. So you'd think there'd be a big spike that we would see and would have talked about. But peak season just, it wasn't as extreme of a blip, right? So I don't know. This one was really caught me a surprise. Much like my example with the 529, I thought it was going to go one direction and it went a different one. And this seems to be the same thing. We're talking about people slowing down and waiting, and then the LA port says that they've had the busiest a month in history, not this year, history, right? So I don't know, the boom and bust cycle, which speaks to what you just said of, oh my God, we got to get freight into the U.S. Hold on, don't do anything. And the up and the down and the check mark curve, I forget what they say whenever they're talking about, the economy, just the sharp contrast is just difficult. And I think that's going to be more of the same, which alludes to exactly what you spoke about on your first topic. So I don't know, did you hear anything about the throughput and the record setting?
Yeah. So it's become this talking point for people who support the tariffs that America hasn't changed, that we're still buying, that nothing really has gone wrong here. And that is such a stupid way to look at it. And the reason for that is, of course, July was a bang out month. Of course, June was a bang out month. The tariffs, the announcement for the tariff pause was late April, early May. And all of these companies took advantage of it to bring in as much inventory as they possibly could at that time out of fear of the whiplash from reciprocal tariffs. And so they did. And what's that lead to? It leads to more uncertainty. It leads to companies for the next couple of months in our traditional peak just making the decision not to move goods because they have enough inventory. They haven't bled through the inventory that they brought in before the April deadline. And they don't want to have all that inventory on their books and pay all that cash when they're not sure what the next thing's going to be. I can't wait to see the August and September numbers. Can't wait because it's going to be a contrast. We're all sitting around talking about what an incredible month it was. Of course it was. People were rushing to get their inventory in the country. Air freight, same thing, right? Air freight was wild that month. Deader than a doornail now. While people try to figure out what they're going to do next. So, Doug, I feel that, the ability to predict this stuff has been off the table for folks in our position And because of that, the understanding of the stability of rates has been really crazy too. And trying to get people the right kind of rates to go along with it. This has been, I think, granted, we're not paying $20,000 for a 40 out of China. I think this is worse than COVID, much, much worse. It wasn't a question of predictability. It was a question of availability. And availability is not the problem right now. It's predictability. And we are in a business that longs for predictability. And right now, we just can't generate it.
Again, perfect. It's not a concern of availability. It's a concern of predictability. That you nailed it right there. All right. Well, I'm getting a Debbie Downer vibe on this whole show, Pete. So we're going to switch it to something that we both enjoy called Halftime. It's brought to us by Cap Logistics. Go check them out at caplogistics.com. They give us the platform every single week, and we appreciate that. So, all right. We're going to change our tune. We're going to turn that frown upside down, and we're going to have a couple of minutes of fun here. So, Halftime, my friend, what do you got for us this week?
So last week was a winner. We did 5 questions that have nothing to do with trade. So I figured we'd do it again, rapid fire, and have a little fun with this. I'm not going to do it every week, but I spent some time this weekend coming up with 5 questions. So I got a list of them here. Whenever we go to 5 questions, I got about 40 I can pull from. So question number 1, Doug, what is a subtle sign that lets you know someone is a horrible person? Can I give you mine?
Wow. I don't know if it'd be a horrible person, but defines character. I would say being able to look you in the eye when they're talking to you.
That's a good one.
They're distracted or not focused on you in the moment of the conversation.
Mine's people who litter. Like people who just like throw trash around. It's like, what kind of person does that? Who raised you? So that's one of the first ones I really annoys the crap out of me there. What is your ideal breakfast plate?
Ideal breakfast plate?
Yep. Like if you're just like, this is the breakfast, like this is the peak breakfast performance. This is what I want for breakfast. What would it be?
Yep. 2 fried eggs over medium, not over easy, over medium. 2 sausages, 2 bacon, some hash browns, not potatoes, but hash browns. Put in some spices in there, and then sourdough toast on the side.
Do you do jam and butter on the toast, or do you use that? Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Load it up.
Doug, the fact that you picked like the most traditional trucker breakfast does not shock me at all. Mine is hard to get. I usually only get it in Hawaii. That's the Loco Moco. So you've got sticky rice with a hamburger on top of it, a runny egg, some hot sauce, and some macaroni and cheese salad. And it's something I only really, I really only get it when I'm in Hawaii. It's hard to find anywhere else. I get it in California too, but Loco Mocos are the bomb. I absolutely love them. All right, next question. Have you ever written a angry letter or email to complain to a company about something?
Yeah, not really. Maybe I have. They always say go ahead and write it down, but don't send it. Right? Don't send your mad email in the moment. Right? So I've definitely written a few, and then I just put it aside, and I come back and I'm like, I'm just gonna move on, not worry about it. So I guess in that I would say no.
So there's those Midwestern values shining through again, Doug. Like, don't write angry, consider everything about it. Is it really worth getting angry about? This is Northeast angry. Okay. So I am a serial letter and email writer. I am a live tweeter when I get angry about something. God forbid that someone is rude to me at a restaurant, because I'll be on Yelp before the check comes. I am awful about it. So I read a lot of, tersely worded letters to people all the time. They don't always result in anything, but I feel better knowing I got it off my chest. All right. Halloween decorations are already out in a lot of stores right now. Is this too early for that? Or are you okay with it? And if you're not okay with it, what do you think is a reasonable date to start showing the decorations for Halloween?
Nice. I think it's dumb. I think it's way too early, and probably the best time would be October 15th.
Wow, that late. Man, it's a good thing my daughter has never watched this show, because she would be so mad at both of us. I think like the end of September, like maybe the last week of September. I have to go into like, these hobby stores with my daughter, and I just feel like you're taking my summer away from me. It's still summer. I'm not ready to celebrate the holidays, which in my house start at Halloween and just roll on all the way through there. So yeah, I think it's preposterous. I think last part of September, but Doug, you're going much more aggressive there, and I can dig it, man. I think that's great. All right,
Yeah.
last one. Is there something about you today at your age that younger Doug would be pretty appalled with?
Oh man. I'm not crying about that question, Pete. I'm just wiping my eye. Man, I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
I got
Maybe,
a couple.
I'm this going to be so superficial. It's not content. I would be disappointed with my lack of hair.
Oh yeah, that would.
I had a ponytail. I remember my senior year in college. I worked at a pool as a lifeguard. I had this beautiful long hair that I wore in a ponytail, and for some, yeah, I would say it's you didn't take care of your hair, brother. What's the problem there?
Yep. Yeah, that would bum me out too. Mine are a little more esoteric, right? Like young Pete would be so mad that I am perfectly fine going to bed at like 9:15. He would not understand why I'm not doing things that are much, much more fun at such an early time. Younger Pete would also be deeply frustrated with older Pete that he stopped listening to new music. Like for me, music more or less died in 1997. There's stuff I've listened to that's come out since then, but it's exceedingly rare. It's like I just stopped caring. Not going to concerts as much, not going, I'm like, I don't want to be around people. I went from being pretty extroverted to pretty introverted if there's a crowd involved. And that would really upset young Pete.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. Um, yeah, my I just we've been binge watching tons of shows on all of them, right? Netflix, Hulu, Apple TV, and it'll be 9:15, and it'll be, do we watch one more? And then we say that's 45 minutes. We look at each other and say we'll watch it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Young Doug and young Pete didn't have nearly as much to do. And their metabolism was a little different. So it didn't matter if we stayed up till midnight. Yeah, man, I'm in. 100% in with you.
Yeah, yeah, good deal.
What you got this week, Doug?
All right. I saw an article over the weekend. Vegas is not happening as much as it used to be, right? As far as year over year from 24 to 25, every single month, the number of visitors has gone down. So that was thinking like, okay, what to do with Vegas? And then more importantly, like, are you a Vegas guy speaking to our young self versus our old self? When you hear Vegas, is it, hey, I'm all in? I love it. It has so much to offer, or I got 2 nights tops in Vegas and I'm out of there. What's your take?
I would rather go to Fallujah than go to Vegas. There is one exception. I really want to go to a show at the Sphere, but no, man, I'm a New Orleans guy. I want my fun a little dirty. I don't need it to be so boutique. Like it's all generated in Vegas. It doesn't feel real to me. And this is my algorithm, Doug. Like for whatever reason on Twitter, it came up a lot over the weekend. People showing how expensive it's gotten,
Yeah.
how people don't feel safe there anymore. Yeah, so no, I'm 100% out on Vegas. The only reason I go to Vegas now is because we have a trade show there. If there's a trade show, I'll be at Vegas. But for the most part, no, I really do not enjoy my time there.
Yeah,
What about you?
I'd be with you. Primarily, it has so much more to offer now, but everything is ungodly expensive, and it's almost like you have to have. I liken this to L.A. You need to have a lot of money to live in LA to lift yourself above the bullshit that's in LA, right? Same type of thing. You can't go to just a normal hotel anymore, um, and spend a decent amount of money and go from there. You have to spend a lot of money in order to enjoy the classic Vegas experience. And I don't know if it's worth it anymore. And maybe those trend lines I just mentioned about how every single month this year is less than 2024. So we're on the same page.
Doug, the list of cities I'd rather hang out in: Chicago, incredible city, amazing food, so much fun. I'd rather go to Savannah, right? I'd rather hang out there. Not nearly as wild. Again, amazing food, relatively inexpensive. New York, LA, Vegas. You gotta bring the wallet if you want to have some fun. And I want to retire someday. I've had my fun. Let the kids do it.
Yeah, good deal. All right. Well, that was that was halftime brought to us by Cap Logistics. Go check them out, caplogistics.com. So, Pete, I really had one topic today because we were going to tag team, and spoke about my second one. So,
Oh yeah.
what do you got? I have some comments on yours, so let's close this thing out. Go for it.
Yeah, man. Sad situation. If you hop on LinkedIn, you watch the press for our particular area of concern. Lots of layoffs. You're seeing a lot of people I know, a lot of personal friends of mine that have spent 15, 20, 30 years at a company that are being told that their services, they're redundant. We can't afford to have you. Business is hard. It's time to let you go. We think we talked about this in the show one time. I have been laid off. I've been laid off a number of times in my career, and it is debilitating. It feels awful, to have someone tell you that we like you, but we can't afford you, or we don't need you compared to other things right now. And our industry is really going through it right now. There is a lull for a lot of companies, and that lull is forcing management to make really hard decisions about who they keep and who goes. Doug, you've brought up a lot of big ones over the course of the past couple of months. The integrated carriers, the dray companies, they're having a hard time. And for many of the medium to smaller size companies, they don't have the operating income to sustain any sort of hit. And so they've got to go place where we spend the most money in this business, personnel. And it's unfortunate. So what bothers me about all this, Doug, is the boom bust nature of what we do. During COVID, they were walking into Walmart and dragging people in the car like they were shanghaiing them to come work behind a desk to do freight. It was, and people in our industry were just making so much more money because it was hard to find folks that had a strong understanding of what it is that we do. And then there was, post COVID, just got rid of people left and right, whap, 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 whap. And then things got better again. There was more chaos. We brought more people in, and now we're letting them go again. I think it would be high time for maybe the next couple of decades that companies understand the impact that artificial intelligence will have on desk level workers. Second of all, that there will be times where things are harder and where there's easier. To retrain someone and bring them in and expect them to be good to go is unrealistic. I think as an industry, we need to hire better, and we need to understand the impact of those hires rather than to send these people out to the beach and wait for the next ship.
Yeah. Yeah. Two points there, right? Is that shareholder value in air quotes, which basically means we got to make money.
Yep.
The cyclical nature and the spikes and the valleys, the peaks and the valleys are so dramatic now with the just-in-time requirement on every aspect of our lives, right? And so it's not year changes, it's quarterly changes, even monthly changes in some instance where the shareholders and the pressure for a company to show a positive bottom line is just so more rapid now than it's been in the past. And
Yeah,
so I think that's driving it. Let's hire and fire as quickly as we can, right? But it's just it's challenging. But that was the one thing that caught my attention is just the demand and the expectations for publicly traded companies to go out there and hit their numbers time and again. And like you said, labor is the easiest one. You can't cut your way to profitability, but you can get kind of close and make the shareholders feel good about it, right? And then the last comment on that, Pete, is the small guys, the big multinationals and the large logistics companies can just tighten their belt a little bit, where the little guys are like, I'm crying uncle, I gotta bounce out of here, right? So I think you've seen a lot of that as well. Names that you and I may not recognize unless we're regionally located, right? But I think those type of companies and those type of individuals are being impacted tremendously.
Yeah, it's sad to see, man. It really is. None of us work for a non-for-profit, Doug, right? Like I have a couple of clients that are non-for-profits, but all of my customers have someone they're answering to: the owner, the shareholders, the employees for employee-owned companies. They all have people that they have to report to, and we have to report to our shareholders, to our bosses. And we're not doing this for kicks; we're doing it for profit. And it's just it's a horrible situation. I just wish that we as an industry did a better job of understanding what's down the road 5, 10 years from now and hiring with that in mind. All of us have worked for companies that started with one or two people. one or two people, a dream, and probably a line of credit and a whole lot of anxiety. And some of them have become giant multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies off the backs of hard work, a little bit of luck, and teamwork. And I love those stories. What makes me sad is when those stories don't quite pan out. And right now we're seeing a lot of those, unfortunately. It's hitting the trucking industry particularly hard.
Yeah. Good points.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us this week at Global Trade This Week. We want to thank our friends at Cap Logistics again for their unwavering support. We want to thank you, our viewers and listeners. You can find us on all the podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Please tell your friends. Do subscribe. And like we always say every week, Doug, if it's happening in global trade, we're talking about it next week on Global Trade This Week. Take care, buddy.
All right. Travel safe, my friend.
Thanks, man.